Hello again, fellow YouTubers. Solomon Pleasant here for Team O.M.G. Vanguard, back with probably our second to last or last Cardfight Vanguard clan analysis review thing. Side note, I will probably mention Kreia Elementals in a different video. I was originally going to mention it in this one, but I figured they deserve their own little special thing, and I'll probably talk about them and Stride in its own separate video. So just bear that in mind. Today we have Link Joker. One of my more preferred favorite clans. Me and Link Joker kind of have a history together. So let's just kind of discuss what they do. Link Jokers kind of have this whole concept of field control in order to gain advantage from that field control. And then, yeah, pretty much it's pretty much field control and power control. And when they do that, they usually gain an advantage off that so that they can not only monitor their hand size and keep their hand size relatively large, but they can also deal more damaging blows the more and more times they do their skills. And they focus mainly on the mechanic of locking. And then we have deleters with deleting, but we'll get to that in a minute. Locking is this idea where, unlike Mega Colony where you rest a unit so they can't stand next turn, locking basically says that unit doesn't exist until next turn. That space, actually it's not the unit, it's the space. The space itself really doesn't exist, so the unit can't be moved, messed with, altered. It's stuck there doing nothing. It's just this black hole that nothing can escape from. And granted, we have units that can unlock, Gold Paladin, you jerks, but all that aside, locking, in my opinion, is a very powerful and very overwhelming skill, because unless you're running Gold Paladin or you run units that specifically say unlock units, you can't do anything about the locking, except for Messiahs, but we'll get to them in a minute. So, let's just kind of go over Link Joker. Link Joker started out Season 3, and I'm a big Season 3 guy. I really liked Season 3, and I think these guys are partially responsible for that, because Link Joker gave this ominous vibe that things were getting incredibly serious, and the world is really in danger, and these guys are going to be the ones to bring the danger. They are the danger, they are the ones who knock. I made a reference. And it's a chemistry reference at that, so it works. Anyway, so in Season 3, multiple different people actually used Link Joker, because Link Joker was kind of this infection that would spread and just infect people and cause them to become reversed. And this started the reverse phenomenon, which is where we get a lot of our reverse units, and I've already talked about all the reverse units, so you guys know those things exist. And I really like the reverse units, so I'm kind of happy Link Joker exists because they gave me those. And I'm very thankful they gave me those because it resurrected some units that weren't necessarily being used. Maelstrom being one, Amon needed a cross-ride, so that was nice. Lukier kind of needed a cross-ride, and I made the Silverthorn archetype altogether, so thank you for that. I'm trying to think, Cocytus needed a Granblue needed a cross-ride, so thank you Link Joker for giving us that. I think that's about it, because most of the other clans either got... Oh yeah, and it gave us Dayusha. Thanks for doing that, I guess. I believe there was like one clan from each nation, or two clans... Yeah, there was one clan from each nation that didn't get a reverse. Those being, from the United Sanctuary, I believe it was Genesis and Oracle that never got reversed, because Oracle didn't exist, and Masaki only had played one game with Genesis during that entire ordeal, so thanks for doing nothing, Masaki. You are lazy, and should have used your Genesis more. Yeah, I believe so, because oh yeah, and Shadows didn't get one, which everyone was very upset about. They assumed Shadow Paladin would get one, but they didn't, so there's that. Nubatama was the only clan from... Oh yeah, Nubatama and Tachikaze didn't get reversed because Tachis weren't really a threat, and Nubatamas were kinda only there for one fight, but Nubatamas were just too awesome, and Tachis were robot dinosaurs, so there's that. I could have seen some potential for some of these, like Shadows and Tachis. I really see potential for reverse and some support other than the Revenger or other than the Ancient Dragon, but what can you do about that? Bermudas were the only one from Megalantica, is how you actually say it, from what I've heard, that didn't get reversed, and everybody was really upset about that because there was art for it, and people wanted to see it, but it never came out, and everyone was really upset that Bermudas didn't get reversed. which I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of upset about that. They should have. Mega Colony from Zoo is the only Zoo Nation that didn't get reversed because Mega Colony 2 OP. And then nothing from Stargate actually didn't get... Link Jokers even got reversed. So everything from Stargate got reversed. Shut Up T, Et Ranger is not in Stargate. They made that official. So... Oh yeah, and from Dark Zone, Spikes didn't get reversed. Go Spikes. Spikes too powerful. So, you have that. Anyway, I really like the reverse phenomenon. You probably know that already. Let's continue with Link Joker. So... Link Joker actually has a ton of lore behind it because of how the factions have been split up and all this stuff, but honestly we're not here really to discuss lore, we're mainly here to discuss decks and archetypes. So I'm going to start with the first one, and that being Star Vaders, or the big archetype for Link Joker. And T actually did bring up something as to why certain archetypes aren't just normal units. Such as Link Joker being the example here. Why aren't Star Vader just normal Link Joker units? Because pretty much it's just Star Vader. And then we have delete... Like, T's idea was Star Vader should have just been Link Joker itself, and then you should have had Deleters as an archetype, and then Messiahs come in as an archetype, and all that stuff. Same thing with clans like... Same thing with how Liberators became a thing. It's just like, well, now everything needs to be Liberator now. To which I kind of understand what he's thinking, but at the same time, like... You had Schwarzschild. Schwarzschild's really the only person I can, like, recommend as to why Star Vaders were an archetype, because Schwarzschild was a thing. That's all I got, though. But anyway, Star Vader's big concept is heavy field lock. And granted, all Link Jokers lock. Some do it better than others. Star Vaders, in my opinion, lock the best. Star Vaders also lock very quickly and in mass quantities. And when they do so, they gain additional skills off that. So in Star Vaders, you have the two big bosses that I remember of Nebula Lord and Chaos Breaker Dragon, which can work together or they can work separately. Nebula Lord has an idea of mass field blockage of 4 to 5 units being locked for a very aggro offensive build, and then just hitting your unit, hitting the opponent during their turn, and then just saying, oh, the units are locked, okay, that works for me, but if they're unlocked, it doesn't bother me. Chaos Breaker has a more defensive style of, I'm going to lock the units, I gain advantage off that, my rear guard... Well, actually, Chaos is more, I lock the units, my rear guards gain advantage off that, probably, and then during your turn, you're screwed, and then during the end of your turn, I screw you over by getting rid of those fields, so you essentially don't have a field, ever. And Chaos Breaker is very effective at keeping the field, your opponent's field, empty. He's really, really good at his job, except for Liberators, because Liberators like to be jerks to Chaos Breaker. And that's why Nebula Lord is still kind of a thing, because Nebula doesn't care if the units are unlocked during your turn. They just have to be locked during his turn in order to get that aggro push. And I would talk about Schwarzschild, but one, he isn't a Star Vader, and two, it's Schwarzschild. No. So, yeah, the two main Star Vader decks were either Nebula Lord and Chaos Breaker, or a combination of the two together, but Chaos Breaker came out on top. And then you have Omega. Now, I'm just going to kind of click on Omega himself, because I don't think I've actually really showcased him in a video. Now, Omega is technically a Star Vader, but he has his own deck. So I'm just going to talk about his own deck, because his deck is completely different from the rest of the Star Vader clan. Or the Star Vader archetype, I should say. Star Vader Omega Glendios has two skills. His Limit Break skill is Counterblast 1, discard a unit with reverse in its name, and lock a unit. And he also has the auto skill of when a reverse unit is placed on rear guard, you may lock a unit. Oh wait. His auto ability is lock a unit when you place a reverse unit on rear guard. His Limit Break is Omega Lock. Omega Lock is this idea where you keep a locked unit locked, and you keep it locked down consistently. Omega doesn't go for a heavy first turn, lock the whole field, although it works better when he does. Omega goes more for a slow stall game until he gets to his Mega Break, Limit Break 5. Something that hasn't really been a thing, but Omega brought it back. His limit break 5 is when the opponent has 5 or more locked units, you win the game. Link Joker, to date, is the only clan with a win the game condition. The only one. Omega is the only unit. I personally actually do respect Omega as to the point where everybody else hates his guts. And I think everybody hates Omega just because people think it's a noobish way to play and they feel like there's not much strategy to it. Let me just kind of educate you and show you the other side. 1. Omega really doesn't do aggro. So I think a lot of people lose with Omega because they aggro him. That's not how you play Omega. You play Omega by just sitting there and keeping your hand as big as you possibly can and keeping your field semi-consistent as long as you lock a unit. Just keep locking units. Keep doing that until you are at that big 5, and then hopefully you have the ultimate break to pull off the World End, which World End is basically the win condition of I win the game. Now, from experience, it's very difficult to do this. Because 1, you have to be at 5 damage, and getting to 5 damage is kind of risky because it requires the opponent to hit you a lot, and it's just very, your opponent can get a crit at any point in the game, so he could easily kill you at any point. So in that regard, it's really hard to get to that 5 damage. The second thing is that you really have to balance how you use his counterblast and what you lock and what you Omega lock. Some turns you can't lock and you have to just Omega lock so that you can keep it shut down and hopefully you get enough reverse units to lock down the field enough so that maybe if you're at that 5 damage you can get the win. It's a very hard deck to control and you really need to know how to control it. Now there are cards that do help keep Omega consistently running. And again, another reason I really respect Omega is because he goes completely against the meta of only having 8 or 9 or 10 at the max grade 3s. Omega can have as many grade 3s as he wants. And that's why most people think Omega is a Morikawa deck, because Omega really banks on those grade 3s, just having them. And again, there are units to help with Omega. Reverse Cradle does. There's a Break Ride that I can't remember the name of that basically says discard a grade 3, so discard an extra Omega unit, and you get 10,000 power for that turn. You lock 3 units instead of 2 with the Infinite Zero. Granted, Setting Sun Star Vader, I don't know how to say that. It's something chemical or something of that nature. So instead of just Infinite Zero for 2 locked units and then Omega Lock, you can Omega Lock 3 units and get that to go faster. Or you could just use Omega's Stride, because he got one. Death Star Vader Omega Loop Glendios. Basically people looked at Omega and they thought, it might be a little bit hard for some people to pull that off. Let's make it a little bit easier. So they gave him the Stride that says, once per turn, Counterblast 2, choose one face-down card named Death Star Vader Omega Loop Glendios, put it in the G-Zone, and if you have a heart with Glendios in its name, your opponent chooses one rearguard for each rearguard with reverse in its name that you have, and puts the top card of his deck onto that rearguard as lock. Then, if the number of cards in your damage zone is 5 or more, all those locked units become Omega locked and cannot be unlocked during the end phase. So essentially, not only does he screw over the field by ruining it and placing it with random chance, but he also kind of says, hey, all that's Omega locked, so next turn I win the game unless you have Liberators and can liberate all your locked units. Or you have something that can unlock 1 unit, and in which case you can screw that over. But Omega also has units such as Star Vader Cold Death Dragon, which does kind of what Omega Loop does, except it's a Counterblast 1 when he's placed. If you have a locked unit, you can take the top card of your opponent's deck, put it on a rearguard, have it as lock. And it also has grade 1s such as, I'm trying to remember the grade 1 that actually works really well with Omega. There are a couple. I believe it was Ruin Magician. Ruin Magician is basically, okay, I regain those reverse units that you discarded so that you can continue to cycle through them for the cost of a Counterblast. And then you have, I believe it's this engraving Star Vader that I can't remember which Star Vader was, but there's also Star Vader that unflips damage with you when you have reverse. So really, the whole deck focuses around Omega's idea of, hey, I discard reverse units by counterblasting them and discarding them. Make sure you guys can get them back. And Cold Death is there to basically make the deck go faster, and then you have Magnet Hollow to get more reverses out. And considering Omega is one of the 2 decks that can still mix clan, I respect him for the fact that he mixed clans and goes completely against the meta, and I think that may be one of the reasons why people hate him. But overall, Link Joker's heavy field lock for heavy field control. Now, I will talk about the Star Vader Legion decks when I talk about the Blaster Legion deck, but first I will briefly talk about deleters. Alright, so deleters kind of showed up like near the end of Season 4, but they weren't in the actual Season 4. They showed up for a movie thing, which I was kind of sad about that they didn't show up in the anime, but nobody cares about Season 4 anyway, so no one cares. And I was also, like, deleters, like brawlers, kind of got this shaft of, hey, we have trial decks, we have this way of expanding and becoming this new archetype. And then Bushiroad's like, ooh, we need to catch up with we need to make sure America catches up with Japan. All the deleters get crammed into set 16. So, it essentially makes it a little bit harder to build a deleter deck because all the stuff's crammed into one set. So, deleters have kind of gotten a shaft, but they've also gotten some name changes, such as, Oxes was originally Warxes, so I'm not sure why they changed some of the names, but I don't even know what their names really mean, because I've looked at their names and I'm just like, what do these mean? They're just kind of there. Deleters focus on a skill known as Delete. So, to summarize before actually going into what Delete does, Delete is basically locking the Vanguard. However, not as broken as you think. Now, Delete essentially says, alright, your power becomes 0, your effects are gone, you basically have your name and your grade, and that is it. You do not have power, your power becomes 0, and you do not have any effects. So essentially, taking the idea of Link Joker being like, okay, we do stuff to rearguards, let's do something to the Vanguard now to just screw them over. And they do actually contain some units that involve locking rearguards, so essentially Deleter's idea is screwing over the Vanguard and then messing with the front row, like locking up the front row, just beating on the front row so that they can go very aggro during their turn and then play a bit more defensively during their opponent's turn. Now granted, Stride is a thing and Stride just completely counters Delete, which is kind of an issue, but on the plus side, Delete they can't stride during your turn, so at the very least you can take advantage during your turn, which is something I do actually prefer, and why I don't think deleters haven't become obsolete yet, because they can still be very present there. And also, you need cards to stride, so if you don't have cards to stride with, you can't stride. Then you have Oxus, who's just like, oh, you wanted to break ride? No. Oxus is really against break riding or legioning. And deleters are basically against Vanguards doing things. So whereas Star Vaders were very heavy on just field control, deleters are a bit more mixed between controlling and being aggro. Which is a hard thing to understand, but it kind of makes sense in my opinion. Now, before I talk about the big elephant in the room with the Messiahs right there, I will just kind of actually go down right to the 3. Where are you? I will talk about the Blaster Joker deck, and then just kind of talk about the Legion decks for Link Joker in general. Alright, Star Vader, Blaster Joker. Okay, when I first saw this guy, I'm like, ha! Eat on that, all you good guys, because I don't like good guys. I don't. I'm sorry, I really don't. So when I saw this, I'm like, eat on that, Blaster Blade! Now you're one of us! So I will talk about him before I kind of just talk about the Link Joker Legions in general, because I do kind of have feelings about that. Blaster Joker is super scary. Here's why. His act ability on Vanguard is Counter Blast 2, Soul Blast 2, and choose a rearguard with Star Vader in its name and lock it. Alright, that's something. If this unit is in Legion, lock all your opponent's rearguards and choose one of your opponent's Legion mates and kill it. It also has the auto Vanguard ability of choose a card with the same name as a unit on your Vanguard from your hand and put it into the Soul. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, this unit gets +1 crit to the end of the turn. I like the second skill. It's actually very nice. So when you have a full field, you can be like, hey, get a crit. Man, does Blaster Joker not like the field. Oh boy. Just get rid of everything in one turn. Granted, it isn't an Omega lock because that would just be broken, but getting rid of the Legion mate and basically be like, no, you don't get the Legion. No. And just say, no, you don't get a field. Blaster Joker is a super heavy aggro one turn type of deck. Now, I haven't really used it all that much. I think I've used it like once, but from what I've seen, it's a very scary deck to go up against. Because when that thing does something, I mean, you're kind of going to need to hope for the fact that you can Legion again, and then maybe do something about it. But still, your field is gone, so yeah, because he does everything in one turn, and yeah, he's scary. You should fear Blaster Joker. As for other... Now, Blaster Joker I'm actually okay with because, again, he says when it's in Legion, so you don't have to Legion every turn. The problem I have with a lot of Link Joker Legion decks is how you have to Legion every turn to keep doing their skills of locking. I really don't like that. I'm not a big fan of Legion decks that say Legion every turn, and unfortunately, pretty much every Link Joker Legion deck is like that, where you have to do it every turn. And I know Venom Dancer is actually a bit different from... just hit something? Okay. I'm aware that Venom Dancer is a little bit different in going more for the Nebula Lord approach of locking for power, and then just kind of doing that, but still, I'm not a fan of just... I'm really not a fan of the Link Joker Legions just because of the principle that they have to continuously Legion in order to do it, and nobody likes continuous Legion. That's never a fun thing to do. So, okay, I just skipped everything that I wanted to... Oh yeah, that's right, I gotta talk about Messiahs before I actually talk about better stuff. I know with the way I'm making it sound, it sounds like I don't like Messiahs, and... you would all be right, because I don't like Messiahs. I don't. I really don't like Messiahs. And not because I think they're broke, far from that, I really, really do not like Messiahs. To explain, I've explained the Link Joker concept in how they really like field control and they really like just making sure that the field doesn't do much and they don't get hit a lot. And oftentimes they'll get power or draw effects or just being able to go more aggro like the leaders or Star Vaders where it's like, hey, we draw stuff, we get power off it, it's all good. So Messiahs kind of walk on in and they're just like, okay, we're the new archetype, all you guys can no longer get support. And here's what we do. We lock and unlock rear guards to gain benefits, like mostly power. Here's why that doesn't work. Link Joker is a field control clan. Whether it's mid control like the leaders or all out control like Star Vaders, or even Omega is still field control, it's a field control clan. The whole idea behind locking a unit is so that your opponent can't use it. You don't lock the unit and then simply unlock it so that you can get power off it for that turn, because your opponent's just going to have that unit still. It's like, what's the point of even locking it if you're just going to get just power off it? Because your opponent can still block with power. And people are like, oh, Messiahs are going to be scary. I'm like, no! Star Vaders are way better because Star Vaders can maintain field control and actually go off the idea of what Link Joker is supposed to be about. It's a field control clan. Messiahs just take the idea and throw it out the window and go for an aggro-based. which deleters can be deleters are like the closest thing to aggro that Link Joker has, and even then they still maintain some field control and still maintain a good defense. Messiah's that's not how you do things. And it really upsets me because they're the new archetype. Like, we aren't gonna get many other Star Vaders or deleters because Messiahs are now the archetype. And they're also kind of stride heavy, I guess. Most of their support is based on stride. And they've only got 4 units to date even at the moment, so they don't even have that many units. But still, like, their whole idea is, I lock something. Alright, that's good, and then I unlock it to get power. No. What you should be doing is locking it to get power. The whole unlocking process is just completely unnecessary, and why would I lock something to unlock it when I can just lock it and get power off it like in Star Vaders? Explain to me the whole idea of how unlocking the opponent's units is a good idea. Like, locking your own units and then unlocking them, I can kind of understand that, because Link Joker has decided to kind of take a step away from just field locking the opponent and actually locking some of their own units, which kind of takes the whole reverse method and puts it on themselves without being reversed, so there is that, but a lot of their units actually, Link Joker, if you haven't noticed, guys, most Link Joker units that are good lock the opponent's rear guard. So when you unlock everything, you're unlocking them. That's not smart because you just got rid of your field control. You just threw it away to get some extra power. Because if I lock a rear guard that can intercept and then I unlock it, okay, he still has an interceptor. I could just lock it so that he is forced to use his hand. But no, I unlocked it to get power, but that power is completely pointless if they're just going to intercept and maintain a field control because they actually have a field to work with. Because Messiahs seem to think that if they get power, they can win. It's not about power. That's not how Link Joker works. Field control. That is the #1 priority. The second priority is getting benefits. Not get benefits and then field control. Messiahs have it really messed up, and that's why I really, really don't like Messiahs. So as for ending thoughts on Messiahs, like, they can probably work really well against any other Link Joker deck because Link Jokers other than Messiahs focus heavy on locking. So they can just unlock their stuff, but against something like Deleters or any other clan, no. Just no. Because, like, if you gain benefits from unlocking, and you sometimes lock, I mean, you're not really getting much, for one. And if you want to unlock your own units, that's fine, but just no. No. Anyway, so let's talk about just some main stars. Now, when it comes to triggers, crit and draw seem to be the big ones, with Link Joker critical being a big one, but I still think stands are somewhat valid in a Link Joker deck. I do actually run stands in my Link Joker deck because I think they can be valid. I actually prefer a bit of a mix between a rainbow build and I run a modified rainbow build, per se. But really, it's going to be crit, and then stands and draws kind of come next to how you want to do this. So, let's talk about specific units. Now, this starter is one that doesn't come... Now, I would talk about Dusttail or World Line, but they are very specific to their own things. Dusttail is very specific to Star Vaders and the fact that he's like the main forerunner for Star Vaders, and World Line is the big Grade 0 starter for Omega. And then you got your Deleter starter, which is pretty standard, and then you got Messiahs, which no one cares about. When it comes to Legion starters, though, this is a starter that I actually find very interesting and I think could actually do something. His skill is, when this unit boosts, if the number of locked cards your opponent has is 2 or greater, the boosted unit gets +3 until the end of the battle. Aperture Star Vader Quantum. I kind of like this unit, because one, he came in a trial deck, and I'm just like, oh hey, a trial deck unit that does something. That is something we haven't seen before. So, seeing that was a very interesting change in pace, and also, like, because Dusttail, I've noticed, doesn't really work well with Legion decks, but that unit actually does work well with Legion decks, from what I've noticed. Moving on to grade 1s. When it comes to P-Guards, 2 to 4. Like, you don't want to run less than 2. You really don't. But you really can run up well, yeah, you can run up to 4, but P-Guards, it really depends on how defensive you want to play your Link Joker deck. I play a little bit more of an aggro deck, and that's why I run the minimum of 2, and also because I'm super cheap and can't afford 4 P-Guards. I don't understand why people think that cost isn't an issue, but it is. Talking about specific units, I would talk about Lanthium, but Lanthium and Niobium kind of have the same effect of when something gets locked, add +2, and that's where a big pressure thing from Star Vader comes and how they can gain power that way. And I've already mentioned Cold Death and Magnet Hollow as being big Omega support. And before I talk about the big grade 2 that I do want to talk about, I will talk slightly about Star Vader Colony Maker, if I can... Oh wait, I'm still talking about the grade 1. I just kind of had my mind blank there. Alright. So Lanthium and Paladinium's another one that would be brought up. I already talked about Rude Magician, I believe. Paladinium kind of says lock on your opponent's turn, which is something interesting. It didn't really get much publicity, but one card that I know did get publicity that everybody knows is amazing. Taboo Star Vader Rubidium. I believe Rubidium? I'm not sure how you say that. Taboo Star Vader. Why do I really like this unit, and why do I talk about this unit specifically, instead of just mentioning her in the Omega deck like I should have? Because of how unique it is. Auto, retire this unit. When this unit is placed on the guard circle, if you have a card with Star Vader Omega Glendios in his name on Vanguard, you may pay the cost of retiring the unit. If you do, choose one of your rear guards with reverse its name, and the unit that is being attacked during the battle changes into that unit. And all your guardians guard that unit. So essentially, this is what I call a reverse polarity guard. Why? Because essentially anything that says when this attack hits the Vanguard, it basically changes the attack. So if someone wants to hit Omega for a 6 damage, because say Omega's at 5, but you don't have all the locked units yet, and the Vanguard's going, you can just say, alright, reverse polarity guard. You're now attacking one of my rear guard reverse units. And I will just let that die because I don't need to guard it. This is one of the things I like about Link Joker. Their ingenuity in how they can just troll the game. I really love how Link Joker does that. Like, that unit specifically I really like. Paladinium's a nice close second because he says, oh, your unit is unlocking Counter Blast 1, I moved to the Soul. It's locked again. I really like those types of units that just are so out there that it's like, wait, what? It said, yeah, totally. And, again, Taboo Star Vader, super ridiculous because, again, I could just change the attack to whatever I want. It's really nice. Moving on to grade 2s, I did kind of mention a lot of the grade 2s I wanted to mention. I do kind of like Colony Maker a little bit because it essentially fills up your field if you have a locked unit, but the big unit that I should talk about, Star Vader Mobius Breath Dragon. This card right here is essentially Link Joker in a nutshell. Auto on Vanguard, when this unit attack hits, lock a unit. Just like that. It's a nice 9k. You don't run a ton of him, but you do run some of him if you're running Star Vader, because he's a nice thing to set up on for turn 2. You can just lock something turn 2, and it's really nice. Now, moving on to... Are we on grade 2s? No, we're on grade 3s. I would talk about things like Schwarzschild, but he's really garbage, so I'm not going to. He's the mandatory ride chain that Link Joker got that basically says, hey, I locked 3 units, which doesn't sound that bad, but his cost is just way too much for what he gets out of it. I mentioned Chaos Breaker, I mentioned a lot of the Legions. One Star Vader I didn't mention, though, that I will mention before going into a final analysis is this one. Star Vader Freeze Ray Dragon. Now, when I first saw this, I thought Royal Paladins were getting another reverse, and Soul Saver got reversed, but that was not the case, so I was kind of sad about that. But I really like this unit. It has the Auto Limit Break 4 ability. When your opponent's rearguard is locked, due to an effect of one of your cards, this unit gets plus 3,000 power till the end of the turn. See, Messiahs, there you go. Lock a unit, get plus 3,000 power. What is so hard about that? What is so hard? Why go through the unlocking skill to get power when you can just lock and get power? But its auto Vanguard skill that isn't a limit break is cancel. Cancel. There you go. Its auto Vanguard ability that isn't limit break is really nice. When a card is put in your damage zone, choose up to one of your opponent's rear guards and lock it. So whenever your opponent does damage to you, lock a unit. So essentially, instead of 3 attacks, I reduce it to 2 because the instant something attacks, it's going to get locked. Granted, it's unlocked at the end of your turn, but there are also damage adders in Link Joker, so you can essentially lock. And also, remember his limit break where he says when an opponent's rear guard is locked, get plus 3? That helps during their turn because then you essentially have more power and therefore less to guard with. It is only a 10k, and I think that's why a lot of people don't really use it, but I think it's a very interesting build, and I would definitely, I know there are builds out there, but I would like to see those builds and see what they really look like. Because I think Freeze Ray is a very interesting, tech card, and is a unit that not a lot of people consider because 1, it's a 10k, and 2, it's not as effective as, say, Chaos or Nebula Lord. Alright, so Link Joker overall, where would I rate it? I would say either mid-top tier or top tier. Because Link Joker is a very overall overwhelming and very presence-heavy clan. And that's just not because I really like them, even though I do. The story with me and Link Joker is, at first, I thought they were super broke, because I thought locking was just a really broke concept, which it still kind of is. Because you're essentially saying, no, you don't have a unit there. You don't get to attack, you don't get to use skills, you don't get to do anything with that, it's stuck there. Whereas retiring or resting, you can replace the units, you cannot replace the units with Link Joker, so you're essentially basically saying, I'm just reducing your attack. I'm reducing what you can do. And oftentimes, some of their costs are a bit more heavy, but Chaos Breaker especially is not that heavy, and the Break Ride really, Infinite Zero Dragon really carries a lot of Starbearer decks especially. And at first I really was distasted with Link Joker and really did not like Link Joker, but after deciding to test them out, I realized I did like them because I like being a jerk to people, and I like locking stuff. It's fun, because it makes your opponent powerless, and it's fun to do that. We all have a dark side, I'm going to be honest, and actually admit that. I have a dark side, and Link Joker really embraces that. Also, I hate Gold Paladins, so naturally, I'm going to like Link Joker. Because screw you, Gold Paladins. So, after just a while, I just accepted that, built a deck, was very happy with how I built it, was really happy with how it turned out, and it's very effective. And again, Messiahs and Deleters aren't as ridiculous as you might think, especially Deleters with that whole delete thing. Everyone thought that skill was going to be ridiculous, turned out to just be average. But Messiahs are garbage, and we can all agree with that. So, I'm not fully sure where to put Link Joker, but easily mid-top tier to top tier, because not only do they get a lot of support, the decks are very consistent when well built, and they can just overall establish a field presence that doesn't go away. And you can't really, stop them from locking stuff, because you have to play rear guards, unless you're something like Spike Brothers, where then you just don't care. So, anyway, this has been Solomon Pleasant for Team O.M.G Vanguard. This has been the clan Link Joker, and I think this is probably our either last or second last clan review. So, this has been Solomon Pleasant, signing off.